I didn't realize I felt safe around Brooks until the night I almost didn't make it home. That's probably a dramatic way to start this, but it's the truth. I'd always thought I was fine on my own. Independent, self-contained. The guy who walks home at 1 a.m. with headphones in, pretending the world isn't as loud as it actually is. But that night, when my hands were still shaking and my heart wouldn't slow down, the only place that felt steady was next to him. Brooks and I met a year ago when I moved into my current apartment. He already lived there, third floor, corner unit, the one with the slightly broken balcony door that whistles when the wind hits it just right. I'd answered a listing for a roommate. Cheap rent, close to campus, decent neighborhood. He opened the door in sweatpants and a faded college hoodie. Dark blonde hair still damp like he just showered. Broad shoulders, calm eyes. The kind of guy who looks like he knows how to fix things. "You Vincent?" he asked, stepping aside to let me in. And that was it. No dramatic music. No slow-motion moment. Just a handshake that lasted maybe half a second too long. Brooks was solid. That's the word I'd use. Not flashy. Not loud. He didn't need attention. He just existed in a way that made space feel stable. We fell into an easy rhythm fast. Shared grocery runs. Late-night takeout. He'd cook sometimes actual meals. Not just ramen, and I'd sit on the counter and talk about whatever random stress was circling my brain that day. He'd listen. Really listen. And that was new for me. I've always been the anxious one. The overthinker. The guy who triple-checks door locks and reads too much into text messages. Brooks, on the other hand, moved through life like nothing could really knock him off balance. If I spiraled, he'd just look at me and go, "Hey, breathe. It's not that deep, Vin." And somehow, it worked. The thing is, I never labeled what I felt. I knew I liked him. I knew I noticed the way his forearms flexed when he carried groceries. I knew my stomach did something stupid when he laughed and leaned his head back. But I didn't let myself go further than that. He dated girls. Casually, but still. I'd see them leave in the mornings. He'd be normal about it. Friendly. Detached. And I'd tell myself I was fine. Until that night. It was late. I'd stayed on campus longer than usual to finish a project. By the time I left, the streets were mostly empty. I figured it was a 20-minute walk. No big deal. About halfway home, I started to notice footsteps behind me. First, I ignored it. City noise. Normal stuff. But when I crossed the street and the footsteps crossed too, my chest tightened. I didn't turn around. I didn't want to look paranoid. I just walked faster. The footsteps sped up. My heart started pounding so hard it felt like it was in my throat. I cut down a side street. Stupid move, I know. Less light. Fewer people. I told myself I was imagining things. Then I heard a voice. "Hey!" Not loud. Not aggressive. Just too close. I spun around. Some guy. Hoodie up. Hands in his pockets. Maybe mid-20s. He wasn't smiling. "You got a minute?" he asked. My body went cold. "I'm in a hurry," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. He stepped closer. "I won't drag this out." Nothing physically happened. But the way he blocked my path, the way his eyes moved over me, the way he kept stepping in when I tried to step back, it was enough. I managed to slip past him when a car turned onto the street. I didn't run until I was sure he wasn't following. But once I did, I ran the whole way home. By the time I reached our building, my hands were shaking so bad I dropped my keys twice. I got inside, locked the door, and just stood there in the dark, trying to breathe. "Vin!" Brooks' voice came from the living room. I hadn't even noticed the light was on. He stood up immediately when he saw me. "What happened?" And I don't know what it was about the way he said it. Not dramatic. Not panicked. Just focused. But something in me cracked. My voice broke. Embarrassing. I swallowed hard. Some guy was following me. His entire posture changed. Not explosive. Not yelling. Just still. "Are you hurt?" I shook my head. "Did he touch you?" "No." He walked over slowly, like he didn't want to spook me. His hand hovered near my arm before he actually touched me, like he was giving me space to pull away. I didn't. The second his hand wrapped around my upper arm, firm and warm, My body reacted in a way I wasn't prepared for. I felt safe. Like, physically safe. My breathing slowed. The shaking eased. The apartment didn't feel too small anymore. "Sit down," he said quietly. He guided me to the couch. Sat close. Not crowding me. "Tell me what he looked like." I did. Brooks listened. Jaw tight. Eyes sharp in a way I'd never seen before. "I'm walking you to campus from now on if you're out late," he said. "You don't have to." "I want to." That shut me up. We sat there for a minute in silence. His hand was still on my arm. Thumb brushing absent-mindedly back and forth like he was grounding me. "You're okay." I didn't sleep in my room that night. I told myself it was because I didn't want to be alone, which was technically true. But it wasn't the whole truth. After a while, Brooks shifted slightly and said, "You want to just crash here?" Like it was nothing. Like we hadn't just crossed into some weird emotional territory that neither of us had named. "Yeah," I said too quickly. He grabbed a blanket from the back of the couch, tossed it over us, and leaned back. The TV was still on, some random late-night show playing quietly, but neither of us was watching. I could hear his heartbeat under my ear. Slow, steady, completely opposite of mine. "You scared the hell out of me," he muttered after a while. "Sorry. Don't apologize. Just text me next time. I'll come get you." I nodded against his chest. The way he said it like it was obvious he'd do that did something to me. No hesitation. No question. "I'll come get you." I don't know when exactly I fell asleep, but I remember waking up at some point in the middle of the night, still there, still wrapped up in him. And he was awake. "You okay?" he whispered when he felt me stir. "Yeah." There was a pause. "You don't have to pretend you're fine with me," he added quietly. That hit deeper than it should have. I pulled back just enough to look at him. The room was dark except for the streetlight glow coming through the blinds. It cast shadows across his face, sharp jawline, soft eyes watching me carefully. "I'm not pretending," I said. "I just didn't realize how much it shook me." He studied me for a second, like he was trying to read something between the lines. "You don't have to walk alone all the time," he said. "I've been doing it forever. Doesn't mean you have to." There it was again. That tone. That quiet certainty. I don't know what came over me, but I asked it before I could stop myself. "Why do you care so much?" The question hung between us. He didn't answer right away. Then, softer than I'd ever heard him speak, he said, "Because it's you." That was it. No explanation. No elaboration. "Because it's you." My chest tightened for a completely different reason this time. I swallowed. "That's not really an answer." His jaw flexed slightly, like he was debating something internally. "Vin," he started, then stopped. I felt it shift. The air. The space between us. Something fragile. "If I say something," he continued carefully, "I don't want it to mess this up." "Mess what up?" "This." His hand gestured vaguely between us. The apartment. Our lives. Everything. My heart was beating too loud again. "You're my best friend," he said. "You live here. We work. It's easy." Easy. Was it? Because my brain had been anything but easy for months. "You think this is easy?" I asked before I could stop myself. He went quiet. I realized what I'd just admitted. "Great. Smooth. Vincent." I said, "It means I notice things." His eyes darkened just slightly. Not angry, just focused. "What things?" "God, this isn't fair," I muttered. "Why?" "Because you get to act calm all the time." His lips twitched faintly. "I'm not calm right now." That surprised me. "You're not." "No, Vincent," he said quietly, and something about the way he used my full name made my stomach flip. "You think I didn't notice that you've been pulling away whenever I bring a girl over?" I froze. "You think I didn't notice the way you look at me when you think I'm not paying attention?" My throat went dry. "I noticed things too." The room felt too small suddenly. "You're straight," I said, because that was the safest thing to cling to. He held my gaze. Didn't look away. "I thought I was." That sentence knocked the air out of me. "You thought." "I've dated girls," he said. It was fine. But it never. He hesitated, frustrated with himself. It never felt like this. Like what? Like I can't focus when you're upset. Like I want to punch a wall when someone scares you. Like I haven't been able to stop thinking about you for months. My entire body went still. Months. You're just emotional because of tonight, I said weakly. He shook his head. No. Tonight just made it impossible to ignore. Silence stretched between us. For a second, I just lay there, staring at the faint morning light coming through the blinds, trying to figure out if the night before had actually happened. You're staring, he mumbled, voice thick with sleep. I froze. I'm not. He huffed softly. You breathe different when you're staring. I shifted slightly so I could see his face. His eyes were still closed, but there was a faint smile tugging at his mouth. You're awake, I said. Have been. How long? Long enough. He opened his eyes then. Blue. Clear. Steady. Good, he said. You. A small pause. Not even a little. That should have calmed me completely. But now the daylight was here, and daylight makes things real. Brooks. I hesitated. What are we doing? He didn't answer right away. He studied me like he always does when he's deciding how honest to be. We're not rushing, he said. That's what we're doing. That's not an answer. It is. I frowned. I don't want this to be some overnight flip where suddenly we label everything in panic, he said. I want to figure it out without blowing up what we already have. And what do we already have? I asked. He didn't hesitate this time. Trust. That hit. Because he was right. Last night proved that. When I was shaking and disoriented and scared, I didn't think about calling anyone else. I thought about getting home to him. I've never felt like that before, I admitted quietly. Like what? Like my body could just relax. His jaw softened at that. You don't have to be on edge around me, he said. I know. No, I mean it. Even if this, he gestured vaguely between us, gets messy. Even if we need time, you don't lose that. I searched his face for doubt. There wasn't any. That steadiness again. It was almost unfair how grounded he is. I let out a slow breath. You realize this changes things. Yeah. You're okay with that? Yes. You don't sound scared at all. We didn't turn it into some heated morning continuation. Instead, we just talked about the first time he started noticing me differently. Apparently, it was a random Tuesday in December when I fell asleep on the couch during a movie and curled toward him without thinking. I couldn't focus on the screen, he admitted. I just kept thinking about how natural it felt. And you didn't freak out? Oh, I freaked out, he said dryly. Internally. I laughed. Then it was my turn. It was when I got sick in February and he stayed home from work to make sure I ate and took medicine. You kept pretending it wasn't a big deal, I said. But you hovered. He shrugged slightly. You looked miserable. I felt safe then too, I admitted. The word hung between us again. Safe. A knock on the ceiling from the upstairs neighbor jolted us both slightly. Reality intruding. Brooks glanced at the clock. I have to leave in an hour. And there it was. The first real-world test. You still going to the gym? I asked. Yeah. Like nothing happened? He looked at me carefully. Something happened, he said. I'm just not running from it. That steadiness again. I nodded slowly. Okay. I'm not disappearing on you today, he said. I didn't think you would. Good. He rested his forehead against mine for a second. You're still safe here, he added quietly. And that's when I realized something I hadn't fully processed yet. Last night, I ran from a stranger who made me feel exposed. But this morning, I was choosing to stay vulnerable with someone who could actually hurt me. And that was a different kind of courage entirely. The apartment felt different after he left. Not empty, just charged. I sat on the couch for a long time after the door clicked shut behind him. Same spot, same cushions, same blanket half slid to the floor. But now it felt like the room knew something, like it had witnessed a shift neither of us could undo. My phone buzzed. Brooks, text me when you get to campus. I stared at it. He'd never asked that before. Not because he didn't care, but because I'd never let him. Me? You're at the gym and already bossy? 3 dots appeared immediately. Brooks. Always. You good? There it was again. You good? I leaned back against the couch and exhaled slowly. Was I? I felt steady, which was weird, considering everything had just changed. Me? Yeah. Just thinking. He didn't respond right away. And I noticed something. I didn't spiral. Old me would have overanalyzed the pause. Wondered if he regretted it. If he'd snapped back into confusion the second he walked outside. But I didn't feel that, because he didn't leave uncertain. He left grounded. That mattered. Campus was loud that day. Too loud. Normally I get lost in it. The noise, the movement, the distraction of people constantly brushing past each other. But I was hyper-aware. Every time my phone vibrated, my stomach flipped. We didn't text much. Just small things. Brooks, don't walk home alone tonight. Me? I won't. Brooks, I'll pick you up. That one made me pause. It wasn't a question. It was quiet commitment. So when I walked out of the building that evening and saw him leaning against his truck, arms crossed, casual like he'd been doing this for years, something in my chest settled again. He wasn't hiding. He wasn't distant. He wasn't acting like we needed space. He just nodded toward the passenger door. Get in. I rolled my eyes. You're enjoying this. Maybe. But his eyes scanned the area before he pushed off the truck. Protective. Not possessive. Just aware. Inside the truck, there was a different kind of tension than last night. Quieter. More deliberate. We didn't reach for each other immediately. We didn't joke about what happened. We just drove. You thinking about it all day? He asked after a few minutes. Yeah. Scared. I considered that. Not scared of you, I said honestly. Scared of how much I care. He didn't react dramatically. Just nodded slightly. Yeah, he said. That part's heavy. You don't seem overwhelmed. I am, he said calmly. I just don't run from it. I turned to look at him. How do you do that? He glanced at me briefly, then back at the road. I decide what matters and I stick with it. And I matter? He didn't hesitate. Yes. The simplicity of it almost hurt. Back at the apartment, the air felt different again. Quieter than usual. We stood in the kitchen for a second longer than necessary. It wasn't awkward. We take this slow, he said quietly. Yeah. I'm not disappearing tomorrow. I know. And you don't have to prove anything to me. That one landed deeper than he probably realized. Because I've spent most of my life proving I'm worth staying for. With him, I didn't feel like I had to perform. I was afraid of needing him. Of realizing that if he left, the world would feel louder again. Less steady. He must have sensed something shift in me because he pulled back just enough to see my face. What's going on in your head? He asked. I don't want to lose this. You won't. You can't promise that. He studied me carefully. No, he said. But I can promise I'm choosing this. Choosing. Not falling accidentally. Not experimenting. Choosing. And that made all the difference. Really not scared, I murmured. He kissed the top of my head. I'm scared, he admitted softly. I just don't let fear make the decisions. I wrapped my arms around him tighter. And for the first time, I realized something important. Feeling safe with someone doesn't mean they protect you from the world. It means they don't rush you when you're vulnerable. It means they don't take more than you're ready to give. It means they stay steady when things get intense. And Brooks? He was the steadiest thing in my life. It happened on a random Sunday. Not during some dramatic, heated moment. Not after a fight. Not after some grand confession. Just a quiet Sunday morning. We'd fallen into a rhythm over the past couple weeks. Nothing labeled. Nothing announced. But everything intentional. He still went to the gym. I still stayed up too late overthinking things. But now, when I spiraled, he didn't just talk me down. He'd pull me into his chest and say, "You're safe. I've got you." And my body believed him. That morning, I was half asleep on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, while he was making coffee. The balcony door was cracked open, letting cool air drift in. I remember watching him move around the kitchen. Easy, comfortable, mine. That word slipped into my head before I could stop it. Mine. And instead of panic, I felt this strange warmth settle in my chest. He brought me a mug without asking how I take it. He already knew. Sat down beside me. You ever think about how weird this is? I asked quietly. He rested his chin lightly on top of my head. No. I snorted softly. Of course you don't. He hummed against my hair. Why would it be weird? We were just roommates. And now, I hesitated. Now I feel like, if you weren't here, everything would tilt. That was the most honest thing I'd said out loud yet. He didn't respond immediately. He just tightened his arm around me slightly. That's not weakness, he said after a moment. I didn't say it was. You were thinking it. He knew me too well already. I just don't like needing someone, I admitted. You don't need me to function, he said calmly. You choose me because you feel better with me. I exhaled slowly. That's different. It didn't feel like dependency. It felt like alignment. There's a difference. He shifted slightly so he could look at me. You know what I realized? He asked. What? I don't feel like I'm protecting you. That surprised me. You don't. No. He brushed his thumb along my jaw gently. I feel like we steady each other. I frowned slightly. I don't steady you. You do. How? When you look at me like I'm not insane for wanting this, he said quietly. When you don't laugh it off. When you stay. That hit deeper than I expected. Because I'd been so focused on what he was giving me, I hadn't thought about what I was giving him. He wasn't some invincible wall. He just carried himself like one. You could have walked away, he continued. After that first night, you could have panicked. Pretended it didn't happen. I thought about it, I admitted. I know. But I didn't want to. He studied me carefully. Why? Because you feel like home. Because when your hand is on my back, my chest doesn't tighten. Because when you say my name, I don't feel like I have to shrink. But what I said out loud was simpler. Because I feel safe with you. The word landed again. Safe. It was about knowing that if I cracked open, he wouldn't rush in or walk out. He pulled back slightly. And I don't want this halfway, he added. My heart skipped. What does that mean? It means I'm not dating other people. I blinked. You're not. No. How long? Since the night you ran into my arms shaking. That made my throat tight. You didn't say anything. You weren't ready. I stared at him. And now, he held my gaze. Now I'm asking. The air felt heavier. Vincent, he said, steady and sure. I want to be with you. Not secret. Not vague. Not we'll see. With you. My chest felt like it was being squeezed from the inside. You're serious? Yes. And you're okay with what that means? I already decided. I searched his face for doubt. There wasn't any. Just that same calm certainty he's always had. Except this time, it was directed at me. I swallowed slowly. I'm scared, I admitted. Of what? Of this being the thing that finally hurts the most. He brushed his thumb across my cheek. Then we don't treat it carelessly. That was such a Brooks answer. Not dramatic. Not poetic. Practical. Intentional. And somehow that made it even more romantic. I took a breath. And for the first time in my life, I didn't overthink it. I want that too, I said. His eyes softened in a way I'd never seen before. You sure? Yeah. Say it like you mean it. I rolled my eyes lightly, but my voice was steady. I want to be with you. That was it. No fireworks. Felt like I was standing on solid ground. I used to think safety meant control. Now I know it means trust. And the wildest part? The moment I realized I felt safe with Brooks was the moment I understood I was finally brave enough to love him. It wasn't dramatic after that. No sudden fireworks. No huge announcement to the world. It was quieter than I expected, which somehow made it feel more real. The first time we introduced each other as more than roommates was almost accidental. We were at a small get-together at a friend's place. Nothing fancy. Music low. People scattered around the kitchen island with drinks in hand. Someone asked Brooks how we met. Roommates, he said automatically. Then he paused. He added calmly, my boyfriend. My stomach flipped. Not because of fear, because of how natural it sounded coming out of his mouth. No hesitation. No weird laugh. No, just boyfriend. The word felt solid, like it belonged. I glanced at him, searching for doubt. There wasn't any. Just that same grounded expression he always has when he's made up his mind. On the drive home, I was quieter than usual. You're overthinking, he said without looking at me. I'm not. You are. I crossed my arms. Okay, maybe a little. He smirked faintly. What's going on in your head? He asked. I just keep waiting for the other shoe to drop. He glanced at me briefly, then back at the road. Why? Because good things don't usually feel this steady. He was quiet for a second. Then he reached over and took my hand. Not dramatic, just firm. You're not going to get chaos from me, he said. I know. I'm not wired that way. That's the thing about Brooks. He doesn't promise forever in some cinematic way. He promises presence, consistency, effort. And weirdly, that feels bigger. When we got home, I kicked my shoes off and flopped onto the couch like usual. He didn't hesitate. He came with me, pulled me back into his chest like it was second nature now. I tilted my head up to look at him. You ever think about that night? I asked. The one where you scared 10 years off my life? He said dryly. Yeah. He grew more serious. Yeah, I do. What do you think about? He brushed his thumb slowly along my arm. I think about how fast my heart was beating when I saw you shaking. I swallowed. And I think about how I knew in that moment that you weren't just my roommate. That quiet honesty again. No dramatic realization? I teased lightly. No, he said, equally calm. Just clarity. Clarity. I used to think love was supposed to feel explosive, overwhelming, like losing control. But this felt like gaining it. Like my nervous system finally found somewhere it didn't have to brace for impact. I rested my head against his chest again. You know what's weird? I murmured. What? I used to think I was just anxious by default. Like that's just who I am. He hummed softly, listening. But when I'm with you, I'm not. He didn't respond immediately. He just pulled me closer. And I realized something that felt bigger than any kiss, any confession, any label. I didn't feel safe because he was stronger than me, or because he could protect me from random guys on dark streets. I felt safe because he never made me feel small, because he didn't rush me when I panicked, because he chose me without drama, because when I leaned into him, he held me like I wasn't a burden. And maybe that's what love is supposed to feel like. Not fireworks, not chaos, just steady. Brooks pressed a slow kiss into my hair. You're thinking again, he murmured. Yeah. Bad thinking. I shook my head slightly. No. I tilted my face up toward his. Just realizing something. What? I held his gaze steady this time. I don't feel safe because you protect me. He raised an eyebrow slightly. Then why? Because you stay. His expression softened in a way that still gets me every time. I'm not going anywhere, Vin, he said quietly. And for once, I believed it without questioning it. That's the real shift. It was the moment I realized I wasn't waiting for him to leave. I wasn't bracing. I wasn't shrinking. I was just there, in his arms, steady and safe.